was the worst. And she's like, I just got to tell you, I'm not going through radiation again. I'm like, why aren't you going through radiation? She said, I can't do the sleepless nights. I sit up in a recliner. I'm nauseous. I just don't have the energy to go through it, and I just don't want to do it. She's like, I'm just kind of done. And right off the bat, I'm like, got the solution. I could get you an appetite. I could help you sleep. I will drive to Florida tonight to make sure you have it. And like when I say visibly through a phone, if you knew my mom, you would understand. She was visibly upset, like shaking, telling me it's dope, you're absolutely crazy. And to give you an idea, both my parents voted no in Florida, which breaks my heart.
They could have gotten that last 2%.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it was. And she was brokenhearted by me suggesting that, and I was brokenhearted that she wasn't willing to listen. She was 73 years old, and everything to her was dope. Heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, they're all the same thing, and she was grouping cannabis with that. And I realized there's a significant demographic out there, I would say baby boomers up, and even some younger, that because of the media propaganda, they think it's bad. They think it is heroin. They think it's cocaine when it's not, when it works as preventative medicine for adult or recreational users, but it's also healing users. There's studies coming out, and as we all know, it's still a Schedule 1, so they can't be fully published, but they're injecting THC and CBD directly into cancer cells, and they're shrinking and sometimes disappearing. And I wanted my mom to know that, but because I mentioned marijuana, pot, or grass is how she liked to call it, it turned her off completely. And when I realized, when I went to that trip in Denver and I saw, which I think they do great jobs, Culture, Dope, The Chronicle, they do great jobs, but they weren't appealing to the mainstream, people that weren't opening their mind. And I wanted to appeal to the people that need that health care, the seniors, the vets, that turn their nose up to it, when this could help them and their family get through some of that suffering. So my mom was my inspiration, and the thing that breaks my heart is after my first issue came out, up to my fourth issue that comes out on Friday, she didn't get to see it. And I'm finding people her age reaching out to me, because I share my mom's story in our first issue. They're reaching out to me, and they're opening their minds. Perfect example is our babysitters' grandparents didn't want their granddaughter babysitting for my kids anymore because he produces the pot publication, because Robin Leach decided to make some comments in the daily paper about us. Both daily papers covered us, and that's when my name was pretty well known that what I was doing. Then they read the first magazine. Once they read the first magazine, they became my biggest offenders, because they're like, wow, it's not just a person in a Baja jacket on the beach. It's everyday people. They drive cars. They get sick, they buy houses.
That's exactly what I'd like to highlight. It's the people that consume generally are ones that you potentially would never know that do. Guy, we got to take a quick break. When we get back, folks, State of Cannabis. I'm your host, Dave Inman, Guy Bertuzzi. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more State of Cannabis, only on CannabisRadio.com when we return.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
Educator, author, and advocate Dr. Mitch Earlywine is here to tackle the burning issues.
And I'm here to clear up the myths about cannabis and burn them away with science.
CannabisRadio.com presents a no-holds-barred platform that seeks to redefine and revolutionize the entire scope of the cannabis culture while opening the door for more to join the cannabis crusade.
Dr. Kevin Hill.
You can't ignore the fact that, like alcohol, most people who use don't have a problem. So I think that you need to think about policy in that way while educating people properly about marijuana. I think that's the way to go.
Burning Issues, only on CannabisRadio.com. Chronicling the latest cannabis industry news and headlines. Welcome back to the State of Cannabis, only on CannabisRadio.com. Once again, here's Dave Inman.
Welcome back to the State of Cannabis. I'm your host, Dave Inman. With us tonight, we have Guy Bertuzzi. Guy is the publisher of Elevate NV. Guy, we were just talking about a subject matter that it actually rings close to home for myself. I lost my mother to cancer at a very young age. And, I'd like to reflect for a moment that, one of the things that I found was, people were running around saying cannabis can cure cancer. I actually became offended when I first heard it, because it was like, how dare you say that something so everywhere could actually have done something? And my mom, kind of a unique background for myself, Catholic as well. My mother had actually been in a nun. She was at the St. John's in Santa Monica, California. Worked in the hospital there. Wound up meeting my dad, and apparently he had the power to change a nun to a non-nun. So, Pops, I got a lot of respect for you. He passed as well from cancer. And, so again, this was something that, what you just said really resonated with something that I'm familiar with. And the fact that it has a tendency to affect, if not simply cancer itself, but to affect the body so you can actually handle some of the treatments that are out there so you don't have those sleepless nights. And that's something that I would really love to highlight on it. And if you wouldn't mind, just chime in and tell me your thoughts about this.
Oh, I think the quality of life it provides while going through radiation and chemo is amazing. You can't beat it. It helps you sleep. It helps you get an appetite. It's just so basic what it does for you. It amazes me that you could prescribe Oxycontin to a 14-year-old, but you can't give cannabis to a 65-year-old that's suffering from cancer going through chemo and radiation to help them sleep. Doctors continuously, which is getting better because they're willing to turn a blind eye instead of degrade it. But, the comfort that cannabis can give you, specifically most cancer patients I've worked with that are going through those use indicas. Indicas helping them get their appetite. It's helping them sleep 10 hours. Some of them are saying they're getting better sleep before they even have cancer. During cancer, even before they had it, they didn't have such good sleep.
So if nothing else, their time is being better spent with more joy or propensity for joy simply because they don't have the same aches and pains and potentially, worries. I would definitely say that, for myself at least, the biggest boon that I find cannabis to be would be that it provides space within my mind to reflect an adequate amount of time before I spout my mind.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I just made it up right now, so thank you.
I might steal it for the magazine.
I would love to see that quote. I would love to see it, but it's true. It affords just enough of a shoulder to allow things to roll off of. And, while I don't find myself sick, I find myself with benefit of. And, we all have, especially you and us in Arizona, we have these initiatives that are coming. I don't know about you, but I'm really, really excited about the possibility of a full recreation, tax and legalized system. And,
Nevada won't even call it recreational. Nevada calls it adult usage.
That's kind of funny, believe it or not, that Nevada, what happens in Nevada stays in Nevada. They won't actually call it recreational. They'll just simply call it adult use.
Yeah, so question one's called adult usage.
That kind of frames perfectly the crux that we have, that, we can be in incredibly conservative states and they'll push the envelope more so than sometimes very, very liberal states. And it's all based on, one thing, it's the perception that people around you have and the stigma. So what do we do to change that? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we start having these kind of publications that you're pushing out right here, having a classy spin on what cannabis is, not putting on a gas mask and going to town in your local park. That's not necessarily what cannabis is about. Granted, fun. I'm not going to say it's not fun, but certainly not what should be the message for recreation or medical, specifically not medical. I was just watching our campaign executive for our movement on a program on Sunday, and in the background, he's a charming individual. He has, a pedigree that would not be cannabis related. I believe it's actually like a finance background, like asset management, wealth kind of thing. And, he's having a very eloquent discussion about why cannabis should be made legal. And in the background, Fox News decides to have people smoking in the park with gas masks. And it was I found it preposterous that, the media can cheapen such a beautiful message so easily. And it's moving these stigmas. When we notice this, we got to call them out on that kind of stuff. Like, what are you doing that for? There's no reason for you to put that message out. That's not what the message was being portrayed. And what you have here again, I'm gonna dive back into it. You have a new issue coming out in October, you said?
Yeah, we have Melissa Etheridge on the cover. She just spoke at the World Cannabis Conference in California. We were blessed to be able to get her because we wanted to do a major focus on breast cancer awareness in October. And getting Melissa Etheridge 4 issues in couldn't be a bigger dream of mine. Having a rock and roll icon speaking about cannabis the way she does and how passionate she is. She was big in the movement in LGBT, and now she's big in the movement of cannabis. She's created her own wine line. I want to say it was Canna Wine. I apologize. I don't have the issue in front of me. But she has her own wine line. And she even says at the beginning of it, she smoked it here and there. She hung out with David Crosby, which just amazing stories in general. But when she had breast cancer, she utilized it to have that comfort going through chemo and radiation. And she even makes a statement saying if she had to go through it again, she probably wouldn't have even done the chemo or radiation and tried just using strictly cannabis.
There's a lot to be said. I've seen, a ton of documentaries and just even trials with my mom, about how food is also medicine, and just paying attention to the things that we consume on a day-to-day basis, having the base of mind to say, nope, I shouldn't eat that donut. And maybe having a piece of, not that I'm, perfect, mind you, I probably 50 or so, but
I'm at the 100-pound mark while I'm eating a chili donut. So,
but at the same note, there's a lot to be said. You hear about cancers being fed by various like oils and sugars and stuff, and then when you talk about Melissa Etheridge and her message, if we expand on this, I think that we can find a shade tree that, our health and bodies can coexist, where we find this happy medium that we can exemplify for everybody else coming forward. And, I think that we're the generation that probably needs to see this happen, whether, we do as we say, nonetheless, the message I think needs to be pushed more and more that, it's these simple things. They can fix us.
Like you said, to see it happen, I feel that we have to make it happen. I still think we're 5 to 8 years away from reducing it from a Schedule 1. I think big businesses such as pharmaceutical companies and tobacco companies, their pockets are so deep that the fight's lasting. But it's people like yourself with your radio and our magazine that's trying to move that message forward and people coming out and speaking about it. Because we do need to move it forward. We need to make this happen. I want my children to live in a world where they don't realize that the thing that daddy uses that's medicine was illegal, that it was illegal because the paper companies in the 30s were threatened by hemp products. And that
Exactly.
I never thought. I was on TV a couple of weeks ago speaking about my irritable bowel syndrome and my using cannabis. Never thought I would be on TV, but I was on it. And I have an 8 and a 5-year-old, and I did it anyway, because if we don't speak up, we're not going to move it forward.
If we're not passionate, if it's not something that matters, we simply shouldn't do anything about it. But if it is something that we care about, we're passionate about, and we like to see change, it's imperative that we all stand up and start talking. And the truth of the matter is that we're in the end game, and it's ours to either win or lose. We got to take a quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, State of Cannabis, I'm your host, Dave Inman, Guy Pertuzzi with Elevate, and we're going to be right back with you, folks.
Stay tuned for more. Stay